So hi everyone, thanks for coming. I am going to talk, let me just make sure I got this under control. Okay, I do. I'm going to be talking about warning signs. And just before we get started in talking about that, these warning signs are kind of diverse, and I think some of the things that I'm going to say are going to sound like, well, yeah, that's my teenager, you know, these are normal teenage behaviors, and I want to keep in mind that I'm going to sort of talk through that and figure out, you know, how we can address what's maybe more significant cause for concern. And then just to talk about what you can do, which I'm really going to emphasize communication, and then also talk about some things that what you can do if you feel like there's an acute crisis and somebody's really in danger of hurting themselves. So just before we get started, I want to put, sort of as I already have, but put these warning signs in context, in the sense that suicide can be indicative, it's not a disease, it's indicative of you know, pain. So that pain can be related to depression, you know, which is a risk factor, a reaction to stress and mental illness, you know, feelings of hopelessness or feeling like a failure, also being really enraged. So my point is just that there's a variety of underlying feelings that can be related to suicide. And sort of to help us wrap our heads around this, I think this acronym is helpful in terms of what you can be looking for. So the acronym is FACTS, and you're going to look for feelings, actions, changes, threats, and also I want to alert you to some different situations where some of these warning signs might come up especially. Okay, so here are some of the feelings that you're going to want to look for, and you know, a lot of these are related to depression, so pervasive low mood, feelings of hopelessness, you know, not feeling, and along with those lines, feelings of hopelessness, it's really important to sort of think about future orientation. So how is this person looking at the future? And if they sort of don't have any indication that they're thinking about the future, that's a big warning sign and something to look out for. Another one would be worthlessness or self-loathing. Hearing that kind of talk is a warning sign. You know, pessimism, so there's nothing I can do about this, sort of helplessness. And then another one I think maybe we think of less commonly, but rage or anger, you know, those kind of feelings, and also being really on edge or irritable is something to look out for. And again, I want to just stress, like, well, you know, teenagers have ups and downs and have these different feelings throughout the day, but definitely helplessness and hopelessness are something to be really attuned to especially. Okay, and so here are some actions that you can look for. So withdrawal from normal activities, you know, change, somebody's not engaging in the things that they formerly were. That's a warning sign. Increased drug or alcohol use, which can also increase the chances that somebody does something impulsive, like suicide. Another one is recklessness, so engaging in really risky behaviors is a cause for concern. And look out for self-destructive behavior. Cutting, self-injurious behavior is a major action to look for. And also, I think these last two are a little bit more indicative of the planning phases of suicide, but giving possessions away is obviously something to really look at. And then seeking access to a means, so that could look like guns, pills, knives, and then another one I don't have up here, like to rope. So if somebody's looking for access to those things, that should be a big cause for concern. Okay, and here's, I think, a helpful one is changes. So we talked about, you know, teenagers have all these different moods, but a drastic change in any of these moods, behaviors, or attitudes is something to look out for. So if somebody gets really suddenly irritable, sudden anger, and another one would be like somebody's all of a sudden really calm in a way that's alarming and different, that's something to be alert to. or, sleep habits changing, eating habits changing, which I think are related to depression, but also can sort of indicate that somebody's really on edge and that something's going on. And then this is sort of related to the action of withdrawal, but if you have a change in attitude, so something that was really important to your child is no longer important, that's a warning sign. And no longer caring about things. They were straight A student and now they're getting Fs. That's a warning sign. Okay, and then here's, I think, one thing that we certainly associate with suicide are threats. So these can be either specific or vague. So it could be, I wish I were dead, which I think is more obvious, or like, nothing matters anymore, I don't deserve to live. Or another one to look out for is talking positively about a former suicide. That's something to be aware of and alert to. Like, I think so-and-so was brave for doing that. It's sort of in the threat category. And just also looking out for things in text messages and blogs and Facebook. Those type of threats and statements can come out there as well. And teachers in school assignments, some writings or drawings is something to follow up on, certainly. Okay, and then lastly, some situations when you just want to be especially alert would be times when coping mechanisms are challenged for the teen. So I think that one's obvious, but you know your child, you know what's important to your child, what times are going to be especially difficult for your child. Those are going to be situations that you're just going to want to be aware and attuned to. And then anniversaries. So anniversaries of deaths or anniversaries of suicides of someone that they knew. Those are situations that you just want to be vigilant about. And then also at the time of the death of a loved one or a friend is a risky time. Okay, and so now that I've provided you all this information, you're probably wondering, okay, so what can I do? And the most important thing is to communicate. And I have these two pictures here because I think a lot of times, we envision this conversation where we're going to sit down and talk about this and, have a nice chat. And sometimes when we talk to our children, it can feel like they're just plugging their ears and not listening. But don't let that deter you, and really express. If you are concerned, you need to communicate and express your concern. So you can express it and give examples. So for example, I'm concerned about you. It seems like you're not doing the things that you used to enjoy. Or even something as simple as I'm worried about you. Just expressing that you're there and that you're attuned to it and you're looking into it in sort of a non-accusatory way. And then I think this is really important. If you're concerned that somebody is suicidal, then ask them. If that's a concern, say, are you thinking of hurting yourself, is something you might say. Or have you thought about suicide? What have you thought about suicide? So asking directly, and I think sometimes there's a misconception that this is going to plant a seed in your teen's head or in somebody's head by asking. But that's just not the reality. We hear about suicide from such a young age in so many places that asking directly is going to be certainly more helpful than harmful. Oops. Okay, and then just, in having these conversations, here are some general do's and don'ts. So do listen. People are, just keep in mind, people are in pain, and empathize with that pain. Take information seriously. I think sometimes there's a debate, well, is it for attention? Well, this is the time to really just take the information seriously and offer your support. And then also, seek consultation and help. So after this conversation, follow up if you're still concerned. And I think as a parent, I'm sure it would be hard to look at your child in pain and see that kind of pain. So get some support for yourself as well. And then just in that conversation, here are some things that are not going to be helpful. So arguing somebody out of suicide is not going to be a great strategy, and it's not, you know, clearly you're thinking about things differently than they are, so that's not going to be a great option. Or even just denying individuals' feelings. I think sometimes it can feel like, but you have so much going for you, you know, but it's more helpful to recognize the feelings than deny them. And, you know, reminding people what they have to live for, also not helpful, or saying that suicide is wrong or selfish could potentially sort of increase anger or rage, or just not be that proactive in helping the person feel not so alone. Okay, and then after that, I think it's just important, you know, get help. So seek guidance, refer to a professional, get some outside help. And if you feel like your conversation isn't going anywhere and you're still concerned, reach out to other adults in the child's life, or you know, just follow up on your concerns. And I think, you know, people who are depressed are not going to have motivation and get up and go after this conversation. You're going to have to probably follow up with them. And then finally, this is kind of the more acute situation of if somebody were threatening or planning suicide in the moment. Don't leave the person alone. Take away materials that could be used for suicide. So, you know, like we're talking about guns, pills, ropes, just take that, make sure that that's not around. Because, you know, as Mary said, a protective factor is actually not having those things around. And then you can take the person to a clinic or a hospital. You can, you know, call 911 to help you if it's sort of an immediate danger. And then locally, Region 10 has a 24-hour emergency services number, which is, I can give it to you, but I think it's also in the back. So in summary, just take all signs seriously and really, you know, remember those facts, remember the feelings, the actions, the changes, threats, and just be aware of different situations. And then just openly communicate. You know, I think that's one of the most important messages from tonight, is just, you know, express your concern and ask, and then get help and be persistent. So.